All right,
I should get one of those boom sticks with the mic on the end.
All right.
That would be pretty sweet. One day we'll be able to do this like sitting next to each other, Katie.
I know. That'll be wild.
Cute.
Everyone. All right. We are...
Wait, where's the outline?
I got it pulled up. All right, Chris, go.
Okay, I'm going to hit the music. Hold on, let me find the button. This is a jam.
Check my nails, baby, how you feeling? Tired of the foolish, God does your shoulder thoughts. Keep it moving, yes, Lord. Step into some new kids in there, swimwear, going to the pool quick. Come now, come dry your eyes. You know you a star, you can touch the sky. I know that it's hard, but you have to try. If you need advice, let me know. If he don't love you anymore.
Hold on, let me get through this part.
Nice.
Gotta get my fading skills up.
Your what skills? Oh, your fade.
Yeah, to fade the music.
Yeah. We'll fix that in season 2. Not fix it. We'll polish that in season 2.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
You know.
I'm gonna hire a few more people, a sound guy. That could be in the works.
Well, folks watching, you missed Chris's makeup artist was here, 10 minutes ago prepping him.
We're making it big, Katie. We're making it big. And I think this episode today will make us even bigger.
I think so, because we have Emily Kruger with us. Whoop, whoop. Hello, Emily. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
For those of you who don't know, Emily is first and foremost an ASA coach and futsal player. She's going to tell you about other things she's done, I guess, that have led her to this point. But first, Emily, we already have a comment. Coach Mark Wysocki said, "Let's go." He is pumped. Emily, how are you handling self-isolation? How's it going over there?
It's going pretty good. I feel very grateful. My home is safe and nice, and I live with my partner. We're happy together, so that's awesome. We have a cat. Our neighborhood's super walkable. Obviously I miss everything that I used to get to do, but it's been an interesting opportunity to pivot and get creative and try to also rest a little. Mostly been busy, but loving it here. Oh my goodness.
That was an early futsal pun. Already dropped in.
Already here.
Charlie!
I came out to say hi. Hi, everyone. Okay.
We are definitely pet friendly here. Don't be surprised if we have...
I heard her little bell. I was like, oh, she wants in.
We had Chris's dog, Kruger, yelling on the first episode, and my cat is behind my screen right now with her paw going out trying to pull scraps of paper. So
she's trying to get in it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's start. Emily, tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you from? How'd you start playing soccer? What'd you do growing up?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Redwood City, California, which is in the Bay Area, just south of San Francisco, just north of San Jose. It's like where Facebook and Google and all that jazz is today.
Mm-hmm.
And I joined my first soccer team. It was AYSO, recreational, whatever, when I was 5.
Nice.
So, just older than Tots out there. And, it just has been with me since.
All right. So you started playing as a almost tot, just past tots, and then how'd you end up at Berkeley? I hear you went to Cal Berkeley to play soccer.
I did. Go Bears.
Go Bears.
Yeah. So I was definitely an athlete as a little kid, right? Played a lot of sports and really loved all of them. PE was my favorite subject. Just a really active kid, and I what'd you say, Chris?
Join the club.
Right. yeah, sometimes you just know. And I think I just knew that, you know, sports was going to be my thing. It was just a matter of which one. And by like 8th grade, 9th grade, I picked soccer. I'd also played tennis and baseball. I pitched in, you know, little league up until I was 12. That was pretty cool.
Nice. Were you one of the only girls?
Let's stop the tracks. Hold on a second. Did you say you were a pitcher?
I was a pitcher. Well, I mean, yeah, I played, you know, it's little league, so you move around. But yeah, like I pitched and played in the infield.
What was your favorite pitch to throw? I mean, was it like, did you have any different pitches?
Fast, man, just fast and down the middle. But the thing was, I mean, you think about girls typically develop at that age like significantly earlier than boys, right? So I was just like bigger and stronger and like had better mechanics than all of them. So I was throwing it like 3 times as fast as most of them. And like if you can imagine, like these little boys get up to the plate and I'm already like 5'9" and I'm on the mound, like whipping it in there and like it was cool. But it was clear that it wasn't gonna sustain. So I decided to pick goalkeeping instead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's just pause because if people don't know you in person, you are a goalkeeper who's fairly tall with a fairly large wingspan. So just to paint a picture.
I'm a big person.
All right, so you picked soccer.
I picked soccer, you know, played for a club team that was competitive and training a lot. And, you know, a lot of the girls who I played with when I was like 11, 12, 13, 14, and then I went to a different team. But that, like, even that young, those girls, a lot of them played D1. My best friends from that team went to UCLA. One of my other best friends from that team went to Stanford. Like,
what do you think really it was about that team at that age?
I have no idea. I mean, or maybe like, I mean, because some of that's just like dumb luck that the coach we had, like the coach was amazing, but like weird that many kids who would end up being like, I'm going to be an athlete. I should ask him. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe he recruited us, and I never heard that part of the story. But like,
it's like an elite U11 team you didn't even know you were a part of.
We were just local kids, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was a really special coach, and that definitely set me on a trajectory of like loving the game. And then by my sophomore year of high school, like pretty young, I just was like, yeah, I'm going to play in college. I don't remember it ever being a question. I'd been in with the youth national team system, so feeling like I'd gotten a lot of validation and like knowing like, okay, I'm good at this, like I can make this a thing. And then by the summer before my junior year, I committed to Cal, and I just went to their summer camp that like anyone can go to. And I don't remember if I went up to them first or if they noticed me first or what happened, but there was a pretty clear conversation, which like is against the rules outside of that setting, right? Like they can't reach out to a 15-year-old kid, and I don't even think you can reach out to them until a certain point. I don't remember. And I missed your one with Zach, where I'm sure you guys talked about that. But yeah, I don't know how it works, but all I know is I went to summer camp and we could like totally FaceTime with each other.
Yeah, because you're just at camp.
It was just at camp. I'd eat lunch with the head coach, and it was crazy. And so by the end of it, he was like, I want to watch you. I've like seen you train. I know you as a person. I need to just see you play, and then we'll see. And like 2 weeks later, it was Surf Cup, which is a big college showcase out on the West Coast in San Diego. And so he was there, and I'll never, he came to this game where I like made some egregious error during the game, and it like, we were winning, and then it like tied the game, that goal. And so we went to PKs, and then I stopped 2 PKs. And so he came up to me after and was like, it's very interesting to see your like bounce back. And I'm terrified. But yeah, they made me an offer like weeks later, and I just took it because I knew I wanted to go to Berkeley. I fell in love with that city and that campus, and didn't even look anywhere else.
Wow.
That's a cool story, Emily. I just going back to sort of the moment that you sort of realized that you could play in college. I mean, I know that for some, and I'm thinking of some of our kids at that age who are really unsure right now if they even have the abilities to play in college. I mean, was there a moment for you, or like a coach who told you, or a friend who you had a conversation with that was sort of a moment that you realized like, hey, I know I can actually play at this next level, and that's a realistic thing for me. Could you talk a little bit more about that? Because, it sounds like there, might have been a little bit more of a thought process into that moment as opposed to just being dumb luck.
Sure. Yeah, no, it was definitely intentional. Definitely something I sought out, wanted to know, like, what do I need to do to get there, and I'll do it. But yeah, to go back to even thinking that's an option for myself. I mean, yeah, beyond like knowing in myself that I wanted it, right? Like that's step one. I do think step two of being validated by others had to do a little, yeah, probably mostly with doing ODP, which again, I think that landscape has kind of changed today, but essentially, getting out of my local bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Even like, because my team was a travel team, sure, like we played against other teams. It's so hard to gauge, like, am I better than, or am I what tier of kind of a player am I? But going to ODP, so going to another tryout and starting, I mean, yeah, I remember really vividly, it was probably right, like middle school age, early high school, like going to must have been middle school. I was pretty young, going to like a district level tryout for ODP, and then making that, it's like you made the district team, and then you would go to a regional tryout, and then you'd make the regional team, and then if you made the regional team, I mean that was like I played Region 4 with, that's like Julie Ertz, and we went and played against Region 1, which was Crystal Dunn. Like you've narrowed down into a pool of players that's where the national team youth is looking at, right? So I went to a U15 camp and a U17 camp, and that was a clear, like, all right, you're on track to play Division 1 again. I mean, and I think that obviously there's levels to playing in college, right? So yeah, that was helpful. And like, but how did I even think to go to that district ODP tryout? I mean, I think pretty much anyone who played travel soccer went to that district ODP tryout, right? I mean, it was like hundreds of players, and they whittled that down. And I remember like out of the district team, everyone being like, oh, we're like the top players from the, let's say here would be Alexandria and Arlington, maybe the CCL teams, right?
Yeah.
Like you take the top of that's the district. But then to go make the regional team, it was like, oh, like I have something special. That's pretty cool. That was really validating. And a lot of the girls who didn't make that regional team though, they played in college too, right? Like I think even just making the district team was the like, oh yeah, okay, I'm like,
yeah. It's so interesting. We talk a lot about how the ODP landscape has changed and how like the pathway to college is so different, because that's similar to what it was like in Missouri for me as well. I have a question just of interest, and then we can move forward chronologically in your life. What was it like at the like youth national team camps? Like, what were you feeling walking into that? Because at the time, obviously, not everyone's famous yet, right? It's just a competitive environment. But what was that experience like?
I didn't love it.
That's allowed.
I mean, yeah, you show up nervous, of course.
Uh-huh.
But there's actually I'm thinking now also like less nerves because it wasn't a tryout, it's like a camp.
Mm-hmm.
And so there wasn't any pressure of like you're gonna get cut. I mean, there was pressure of like you'll go home and you might not get invited back to the next camp, which happened a couple of times, and then you don't hear from them, and you hear back from them later, and such a bizarre thing. No, I'm thinking I had some positive experiences, of course. I mean, especially like U15. I mean, so your 13, 14-year-olds are there. It's pretty young. So they still made it fun. Like there was like skit night and
I love it.
Yeah, they had stuff for us to do that wasn't just train.
Yeah.
But it was definitely also training at a higher level. Yeah, and then you're nervous at the sessions. I remember having some coaches who were not like, I don't know what the word is. I just felt like, whoa, I've never had a coach be like on me like this.
Yeah.
And it was a hard adjustment. I didn't like it, especially at that age.
And without any sort of relationship. So it's not somebody pushing you that you like are ready to work for. It's like a stranger when you're 13, which is a thing.
Yeah. When you think about going to a summer camp, it's like all fun, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe you have a coach be tough on you to work, but this was like, yeah, I just remember feeling like, whoa. I've never had, especially like it was goalkeeper centric sessions. I'd never even had that before. Yeah, it was crazy.
how did you deal with that though? I mean, not to go too far over, but like, did you deal with that internally, or did you have a support system, whether it's your parents or friends? Because when you go to a national team camp, you're having to travel too, right, on your own, I imagine. I mean, you're leaving school. Like, how did you deal with that though? Did you just kind of learn how to do that on your own to get yourself prepared to go into prison?
Yeah, I mean, of course, my parents were supportive. I mean, this was like, we didn't have cell phones. It was
back in the day.
Go find like the landline and dial like a collect whatever phone call to my parents. Right. I mean, I was on that cusp. I mean, I did actually probably go. That was like my first two, but then like I probably went to a couple like 2 years later where I did have a cell phone, right?
Yeah.
But I made friends with the girls, right? Like they're not your teammates.
Mm-hmm.
It's camp and it's competitive, but like you find your people as you do. And for me, that's how you get, and then it's cool because you have a shared experience with them, right? So you can do the like commiserate together.
Yeah.
Support the positives together. So yeah, finding your people was important. And to be honest, as I got older and I went into a U20 camp my junior year of college, and I had a really not great experience socially. Like I just had a hard time with the women, and they invited me to go to a U20 World Cup, and I said no because I wanted to study abroad. Yeah.
Chris.
and then I got called into the U23s like maybe a couple months after that, and they were kind of like, "What's your deal? Like you said no. Like what?"
Is that my reaction?
Right. Well, my poor college coach had that reaction, right? Like he's like, "Oh my God, this kid," and yeah, I just told them like, "I don't know, y'all. I don't really think I want to do this." And so then that was that, right? Like they were like, "Okay, we're not going to call you in anymore." I was like, "Okay."
So I'll kind of keep going because I think this will come back around, and this is really interesting because. Right, some people and like kids, high school kids in our program might be thinking like that's the ultimate thing, right? Like all I want to do is like maybe playing a World Cup. And you had the Division I experience. You were playing at Cal, very successful, like relatively speaking, 4 seasons, and wanted to study abroad, which is like I think something that is important, and we're always telling our kids to make the right choice for them, no matter if it's the college or whatever experience it is or coaching, because not everybody's path can be the same. And I mention that because, not to skip over your college experience, but you studied abroad, you got to do that, you graduated. Talk about then deciding to go play professionally in Iceland, and then how you ended up at the Portland Thorns, because that World Cup maybe wasn't the right experience at the time, but your journey continued.
Right. I mean, I tell people all the time about this moment where I went to study abroad instead of train all summer and then go to the U20 World Cup in Japan. I came back and had my best season at Cal, I think because I mentally had a reset, and it helped me really understand something I'd known but never really put words to, which was like I needed a balance in my life. Like I'm not the type of player to need to train 24/7. Like it's not going to help me play well. If anything, I need a really solid break.
Yeah.
And I went to Ghana in West Africa, and I got to like play all the time on the beach and in the street and with all these Ghanaian dudes and little boys. I mean, yeah, I was the only girl playing, and I just fell in love with the game. Like I felt so grateful that I had that, and so I came back and I just was so ready mentally to train and work and play. Whereas if I'd trained that whole summer,
yeah,
I would have been burned out, over it, done, like wanting the season to just end. But instead it was like, I was like, oh, I want to keep playing. And I think that helped me then after when I graduated to feel okay about continuing to play. It was not something I thought I would do. One of my best friends from the team was like, I'm going to go play in Europe. She is European. She's from Denmark. She was like, I'm going to go play. You should come. If we get on the same team, we'll like move to some cool country and we can travel. And so she kind of played that card for it, and I thought, okay, yeah, let me go try this. And then we didn't end up landing at the same club, which was a bummer. So I went to Iceland by myself, which was super bizarre. I had a cool time. Like, the women on the team were nice, but it's weird to move to a new country where you don't know anyone and like live by yourself. They were all, students, or I don't even know, had other jobs. Like it's essentially semi-pro, even though you are getting paid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was strange. And then I was kind of like, well, I don't know what else I'm going to do. Maybe I will go back. So after one season, I came back to the US for the off season, a couple months, was like ready to sign a contract for a whole nother season with them. And then the Portland head coach like called my cell phone out of the blue. I was, oh, hey, Paul, like, what? and yeah, you don't pass that up. I mean, like, passing up a U20 World Cup was crazy, but it was for another opportunity, right?
Yeah.
If I wasn't going to study abroad, I feel like I probably would have done it. But it was like choosing between two things. But going to play in Portland versus going to play in Iceland versus like being unemployed, I was like, oh yeah, I should go try that. Oh my God. So yeah, I went.
Emily, I mean, just incredible. I mean, you're just dropping like countries, like it's nothing.
Like, we're gonna have to extend this thing.
In Iceland, though, I'm just curious from, I think, thinking into some of our kids too, just from like a player perspective.
Yeah.
I think every kid almost has a dream of playing professionally at some point if they're playing. I mean, or the majority. What was the day? What was the day in life of a professional player in Iceland like? Assume just playing in a professional women's league, and assuming that your training regimen is pretty intense. I don't know, but if you can maybe talk a little bit about that, soccer-wise, what your day was like, and then maybe a little bit too about what just outside of soccer, like what would you do in Iceland by yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, so that league in Iceland at that time, I don't know if it's changed. It's been 4 years, but was it's professional in that it's funded enough that you get paid. But I would say, like, I got there and it was less intense and rigorous than my experience playing Division One. Now, I had really good friends go play in like the league in France or the league in Germany, the league in Sweden, and those I think would be more comparable to my experience at Portland. But to specifically answer your question, to my experience in Iceland, I mean, yeah, you had practice once a day, every week. And, it was a couple hours. And I'm being completely, it just wasn't that intense. I had fun. It was cool. And then what did I do outside of that? Oh my God. I mean, I went a little crazy. Like, I mean, it was like this feeling a little like, I mean, I could go places, but it's like, I didn't know anyone. So I lived in the city. I was in the capital in Reykjavik. So that was a positive that I had like an urban experience.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like, I'm going to say this. I don't know, 50,000 people or something. It's like tiny. So I would just walk around, hang out. I mean, I felt very free. I could kind of do whatever I wanted. It was my first, right out of college experience. Do you want to hear about the training in Portland? Might be more interesting, or like the schedule there.
There's 122,000 people in Reykjavik.
There we go. 50, right,
still
double
small though. I mean,
it's really small.
Actually, way smaller than I was thinking.
Yeah, but yeah, day in the life in Portland, Chris? Would that be
Well, yeah. So, let's say, so you answer the phone call, and then you're like, yeah, I'm gonna come play for the Portland Thorns. That sounds great. Who else was a goalkeeper at the time? Who were you coming in to train with? And then, what was that experience like?
So it was 2015, which was the World Cup. And so Nadine Angerer, who was the German national team goalkeeper, was the starting goalkeeper and would be gone for half the season. And so they knew they needed, so their backup, and the number 2 was Michelle Bedos, who's still playing in the league at Seattle Reign. They needed a number 3 who could essentially become a number 2, because they're definitely, our starter was definitely going to be gone for half the season.
Yeah.
So that was the gig. It was a phone call that was like, hey, can you come be a number 3 oh, by the way, we don't have enough contracts. This was, I don't even know if they still do this, but because it was a World Cup season, they were going to be missing so many players from across the league. They brought in on every team, like at least 4 or 5 uncontracted players who legally were able, like we played minutes. Well, I didn't. Other people played minutes on the, but not a contract and they weren't contracted.
Interesting.
Anyway, so that was the gig, but super worth it to be in there and be training and be there every day.
Yeah.
So, and Nadine was there for half the season, so I got to, be around her, training with her in a World Cup year, which was cool just to see her preparation for that. And then my second season, she retired after that 2015 World Cup and came back and was our goalkeeper coach and still is the goalkeeper coach at Portland. That's her job.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So then I got to have her as a coach, which was super, super special. She's an awesome, incredible role model and goalkeeper and coach. Yeah, that was really neat.
So what was that, how would you say that training experience at the Thorns differed from like your Division I experience at Cal?
Yeah, it just felt like there's more time, right? You're not rushed. You're not like, oh my God, I'm going to class, I'm coming from class, I have, all these things I want to go do. It's like, no, you're doing this. We wouldn't start till, it wasn't really early, which I appreciated. Like it was maybe like practice started around 10 or 10:30, but the expectation was you got there at 9 or 9:30. Like you got there early. You're in the locker room, hanging out. Everyone's, people are getting treatment. Then like you do a little video session before practice. Coach would like have a whiteboard with like, this is what we're doing at practice today, so you can see it. You know how long each thing is going to be. You know why you're doing each thing. Like so much intention. And then you get out there, and then it's like, an extended warm up, like with a strength and conditioning coach. But the actual session itself isn't that long because what's the point? Like, why would you kill yourselves, right? Like, if anything, I remember my second season, Mark Parsons, who's still there, was like, his goal was for us to train the least.
Yeah.
Like, he wanted us to have the least amount of minutes training compared to any of the other teams because he thought it would keep us healthy.
Yeah.
But have intensity, right? And we wore those, like, you wear the, like, thing in your sports bra.
Oh, yeah.
Takes all, they have all kinds of measurements about your heart rate and the impact and all that. So he was like, we're going to have the most intense, short, like 40 minutes. So we weren't even out there for an hour sometimes.
Wow. But so much lead up and pre and post and warm up. And
we'd stay extra, and then individuals would stay extra and do individual work. Almost no one would just, after the team 40 minutes, 45 minutes, hour would leave, right? Like everyone's on the field. People are cooling down, or like, I think about like a player like Tobin Heath and Ali Long, like they're going to stay after every session for at least 30 minutes, kind of loose, kind of light, but taking free kicks, like they're free kick specialists. And so they're like whipping in corners, they're hitting free kicks. They would ask us to stay. They would ask us to stay extra and hop in the goal. And then everyone's got to do their like treatment, ice bath, massage. So you're there for, you practice for 45 minutes, but you're there for like 5 hours.
So Tobin Heath would take free. Was she on the team?
Yeah.
How did you do?
Right. Tobin Heath has been at Portland. It's the only team she plays on. She's been there for 6 years.
I did not know that. That's incredible. What was your percentage of stopping her free kicks after training?
To be totally honest, she misses the frame most of the time, right? Because she's aiming for the corner. And so it's a lot of them missing and getting really close. And then hitting like, she'll hit a couple, perfect, like, and then she's like, all right, I'm done. Going home.
Like in that environment, which could be a little bit different than like your experience in Iceland and in college, are the majority of players on the team, is that their only job, or are some of the players still like working part-time jobs and things like that? Do you still see that like in Portland, or is it a little bit different?
I would say the majority of players are not, but there are some who are, yes. I also place to be a female footballer in the whole world, basically. I mean, outside of now, like Manchester City and some of the Premier League teams are paying women lots of money and giving them 3 meals a day and, you know, really taking care of them. But yeah, Portland, we were pretty well taken care of. You know, we got housing, and yeah, I think most people were able to just sink their whole attention into that. I always had other stuff that's also my personality. But yeah, I also needed some extra income. But yeah, the majority of women, it's sustainable, which is what it needs to be.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So being cognizant of the fact that we've already talked for half an hour.
I told you we got to extend these shows.
I know. It flies by. Tell me, okay, you retire from playing at Portland. You live in Alexandria with us now. How did you become a coach? Did you always want to be a coach? How, you know, what prepped you based on your lifetime of playing soccer to be a youth coach?
Yeah, so while I was in Portland, my second season, I was coaching goalkeepers at a high school and doing some private goalkeeping sessions. And I'd done it a little in college as well, right? I mean, it's a really, I feel so grateful to have that as a skill that I have that I can share with others and be compensated for, right? It's really, yeah, it's a treat to have that. And I honestly didn't think I would coach anything beyond that, right? Like, I've always thought of myself as a goalkeeper coach, someone who would work with groups of 3 or 4 max, enjoy doing the private goalkeeping sessions. And then, yeah, I mean, my job after I left Portland also for a job that was cool. So going back to this, like, when I have choices, like, I think if I hadn't had the choice of coaching and traveling internationally, I might not have stopped playing, but I had a really great opportunity to join Coaches Across Continents, and it was a cool mix of, it's not really coaching soccer, it's being an educator and just looking at what kind of space we create on a field differently. And so yeah, I did that for a year and a half, and coming back to be local and stay here and travel less, I knew, like, oh, I want to coach, I want to be on the field. So I reached out to Alexandria and said, I mean, it was very clear in my email. I said, hello, I'm a goalkeeper. Do you have some goalkeepers? Can I work with some goalkeepers? And y'all reached back out and said, you know, you should come in and, like, talk with us in person. We, you know, let's get to know you. And I was like, well, sure, that's fair enough. And then they're like, yeah, here's 2 teams. And I definitely was hesitant, you know, like, that wasn't something, like, to your question, like, not something I thought I was going to do. Something I actually kind of actively was like, oh, I'm not going to do that. And now it's been almost 2 years. So
here you are.
Here we are. And I love it. And so I'm grateful that that Ryan Rich was like, you have to.
This is your only option.
Right. He's like, you're gonna love it. And I was like, I don't know. He's like, no, you will. That's right.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, this is pertaining to now, but how are you staying in? You have 1 team now this season, right? Plus all the goalkeepers that you work with. How are your U11s handling this? How are you staying in touch with them? What are you doing?
Yeah, we're doing a lot, and I am all about it. Like I said earlier, like, pivoting in this moment and getting creative, I think, has been something that myself and my group of coaches in our age group, Tim and Juliet, have really embraced, right? Like, we're kind of like, oh, this is challenging, but let's go for it. So right off the bat, more or less, we waited a couple weeks, like, let everyone kind of process new life. And then we were like, hey, to the whole age group, right? It's like almost 40 players, like, hey, do you guys want to get on a Zoom call and do a live practice with us? And, you know, you think about all the YouTube videos out there of people being like, these are drills you can do at home. And the YouTube videos that ASA coaches were starting to create, like, these are drills you could do at home. We were like, why don't we just do those drills at home live? And the girls can get on all together, see us, hear from us, see each other. Yeah, it just seemed like a really, like, oh, we should try this, and it might be totally weird. And I know the 3 of us were super nervous leading up to it, because they're just like, this is so different. Not sure if they're even going to be able to see me or hear me, but it went really well. We've been doing it now for a couple weeks, and every week is a new challenge to get creative about what we're gonna do to keep it interesting, and
That's awesome.
we're loving that. And then doing one-on-one stuff with them as well, which they've been really open to. And the club, of course, is supporting with the individual development plans, but to like, I think go above and beyond and like really like be in contact with the players. Especially they're pretty young, so they're definitely like, how do I train on my own? Like, what is training on my own? Like, why would I do that? And so feeling like they need a little extra support compared to a middle school or high school. I mean, these girls aren't even in middle school.
Yeah.
But we had responses from all of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're into it, so it's cool.
So I just thought of this. You are the coach of the age team that was really special to you, and like, you know, your quote unquote elite U11 team of players that were pretty good. What, you know, you talk about that coach being really special and setting you on a track for loving the game. What do you remember about that experience, and like, what was it that made him or her good to you as a kid?
Yeah, he's a passionate guy. He's like, if you met him, you'd be like, is he Italian or Argentinian? Like, where's that guy from? And then it turned out like he was from California, like he was like from the US, but he played professionally all over in Europe and South America years ago. And so he had this infectious love for the game, and he still does. Everyone should follow his like Facebook and Instagram. Like, he's still, I mean, yeah, he's in his 50s probably. He's like out there juggling, and he just has this aura about him that makes you love like the ball. Like, everything we did was so technical. We had horrible shape. We couldn't score goals. We couldn't defend, but we played possession football like Brazil, and in Barcelona, like those were the teams that he, you know, that's what he wanted us to be like. And he always said, like, you know, he's like, you have to play with passion, like you have to play with from here. And yeah, that was what that was. And I can't quite be that for my kids, but I try to do it in my own way. For sure. And I think about him often, and especially now, honestly, in the past 3 weeks of at home technical work, I've been watching stuff that he has out there, because his videos and his way that he trains is 100% technical. It's what it's all about. So,
I mean, do you find that, like, as a coach now, just looking back at your past coaches, though, do you find that you take a little bit from each of them to help you develop yourself in terms of how you coach and teach the kids? I always find that, you know, it kind of, when I look back and reflect on my playing career and the different coaches that I had, that whether they were good or bad, try to take a little bit from each so that I can then implement that into my interactions with the players that I work with. Do you find that that's the same for you?
I don't think I've been intentional about that. And now that you say it, I think I'd like to be. I mean, I think if I really sat down and, I mean, even just this conversation right now, I'm having, like, it's so nostalgic. It's crazy how many memories there are in here that I don't access ever. So if I sat down and really thought through, like, right, who are those people? What were they like? What was the energy like at practice? Is there something I can glean from that? Yeah, I think I could do that, but yeah, I haven't done it on purpose. That's for sure. Besides him, but he's a really special guy. And maybe to Katie's point, because my girls are at the age I was, you know, it's like, can I take something from my head college coach and apply it to my 10 and 11-year-olds? Like, maybe, but it's also a really different context.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's transitioning from like playing to coaching is, I think, a unique experience too, that we all, you know, who have done that, played, and then are now coaching, kind of have had to experience, because it's just different. It's like a completely different beast when you have like 15 to 20 kids kind of looking at you to teach them how to play a sport. You know, so I mean, did you notice any sort of, I mean, that transition from playing and then to coaching, was that hard for you at all, or did you find that you were able to sort of transition in a little bit easier?
Yeah, I don't see it as so much transitioning from playing to coaching, it was like I transitioned from playing to doing a really unique job where I was traveling and coaching coaches in something that wasn't soccer really. So then I got to learn a lot in that space that I then brought with me to coaching the kids. And I would say the transition to coaching coaches to coaching kids, that's what was hard. And so because my first year with ASA, I had U9 and U10, 2 teams, and U9 kids are like, it's their first time in travel soccer.
Yeah.
Second graders out there, like, and to expect, and I think I showed up like, okay, like everyone come in, like, you know, you want to be here, you want to listen, you want to get after it. And it was like, oh, no, like you have to get so creative and be so intentional about how you engage them. And that was the biggest challenge. And my first month was hard. Like I was like crying after, like upset, like frustrated. Like how do I reach these small humans who want to just, you know, run in circles, and I'm being told like you have to get them to do something. Like, what? It's such an art, right? And yeah, it has nothing to do with playing.
Yeah.
I'm not teaching kids that age.
I was thinking about that.
Absolutely.
It is teaching them a sport, but it's also teaching them so many other things about training and working together with people and like self-discipline.
Focus.
Yeah. I have one question, but first we have a question from the audience. Saha would like to know why you decided to move to Alexandria.
Great question, Saha. So I came out to the East Coast to be with my partner because she's from here, and she was like, girl, I gotta go stay with my mom and be with my mom. And I was like, all right, I'll come with you. So came all the way out here, and then we were in DC for a year. So I got to live up near Columbia Heights, which was awesome. And then Adrian's job is here in Alexandria. And so I said, yo, we should move close to your job so you can stop driving an hour each way in traffic every day. And so, yeah, we picked this apartment right by Simpson. And I was walking in the neighborhood my first week and saw Simpson and saw the ASA logo and was like, I should probably go coach with those people.
Whew, so lucky for us.
Lucky for me too. Oh my goodness. I've coached, you know, like I said, just goalkeepers, but coached in some other contexts, and this has been by far the best one.
I have a question about coaching at ASA. I mean, what do you enjoy about coaching here and your experiences here so far?
Yeah, my favorite, I mean, a lot. The thing that jumps to mind about what's unique about the organization and the culture of this like community-based club that has this, you know, incredible travel academy program, but also has all the other programming. So for me, what I've enjoyed most is getting to be a part of so many different programs, and like feeling like moving forward, I honestly am like, do I want to keep coaching travel soccer when there's so much opportunity to coach in other programs that still have you out on the field, still have you doing the same types of activities, but it's just a little bit of a different context with a different demographic.
Yeah. I want to give a shout to that. Actually, this is not what I was thinking to ask, but Emily helped start the West End Rec League. You helped start that for us last year and ran the game days at Ramsey, which was a really awesome experience and would, in theory, be up and running right now if we were out. But that is a really good example.
Right now.
I know, right? Like this second. But that is a good example of getting to coach a ton of kids and make a really big impact that's not necessarily travel soccer, but a different program.
Yep. And then the women's program.
Yeah. Talk about that for a second. Tell us about that.
Mean, that's been my like pride and joy, was this idea that came in conversation with other women about their experience playing in co-ed leagues and wishing there could be a practice space that was just for women. And I was like, well, yeah, let's do it. Like, I could coach that. Let's make it happen. And again, that ASA was like, yeah, we've never done that, but sure. Like, you know, we'll provide you with all of the infrastructure you need, registration and equipment and a location, and we'll pay you. I mean, that's unbelievable. So to get to have done that over this past year. It's been a whole year since we piloted that, and we've got, over that time, there's been about 100 different women involved at any different point, a kind of core crew of 20 who've been really engaged, starting to almost feel like a team, right? Like these people who come and practice together every week. Yeah, it's been awesome.
Forgot about that. You do so many things, and you play futsal. Mark, would be sad if we didn't shout it out. You play on our women's futsal team.
Heck yeah. That I don't coach. Thank goodness, because I don't know anything about football.
Was that your first time playing this past season?
Yeah, I never even really, I mean, I'd heard of it, of course, but like didn't really know what it was. Didn't coach futsal last year for ASA, like futsal ID, kind of because I was like, what is that? Like, I don't know anything about that sport. And yeah, what a cool experience to learn something new and feel a part of a team again as a player. I mean, yeah, just so cool. Right. All the gratitude for Mark for making that happen. Wow.
Move along, Kat. Dang. Elliot Gold commented that Emily is the best.
Cute.
Shout outs. Love it.
Shout out. Anything as we wrap up, Chris? I mean, we could ask so many things. Do you have professionally in Iceland, professionally with the Thorns, Division I at Cal, high school teams, is there a game or moment or awesome anecdote that stands out as something that you carry with you as a cool experience?
There's a lot. Which is
I know, sorry.
No, I mean, if I have a few go-tos because people do ask this.
Yeah.
It's a great question, and it's fun to tell stories and reflect. I'll be really brief about two. Is that okay? And then tell one more. So my brief two is mentioning this moment, and I don't know if people have seen this because if you're NWSL and Thorns fans, which Chris clearly not, so you won't know about this. But gotcha. In my second,
I loved. Well, carry on. I'm not gonna put a tag right now.
I can't remember which season it was. Who cares? I don't remember what year it was. But Michelle Betos, we're down 1-0 at home. If you've ever seen a Thorns home game, there are 20,000 people, and the Riveters are full blown drums and whatever. So the goal we were scoring against is the goal in front of all the supporter section. And there's 10 seconds left, and Michelle Betos runs up and off the corner kick scores a diving header to tie the game and send it to overtime. And I think it just ended in a tie after overtime, but oh my God, amazing. The goalkeeper scored a diving header. I cried. I mean, I lost it. I was I couldn't believe it. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. And the whole state, I mean, you can imagine, go find the clip. Michelle Betos diving header, so fun.
That had never been practiced, right? That's not something.
Oh, are you think about the goalkeeper comes up? You're up there, you're what do I do? And the ball comes close to her, and it's super awkward. Shout out to Michelle. It's not super classy, but it just it gets the job done. She's what? And everyone's trying to celebrate, and she's there's still 5 seconds. She's trying to run back because they're about to kick off.
Oh my gosh.
That's so funny. And a short similar moment is I remember in college, same thing. We're down 1-0, 10 seconds left. I go in the box. I'm lined up. They take the corner. It's coming right to me. I'm oh my God, what am I going to do? And for whatever reason, I don't know why, these two chicks on the other team were oh, we should mark her because she's so tall. So I'm double man marked. And so my center back, wide open, comes flying through, header, goal, ties it up. And I was yeah, I did that, even though I was just standing there.
That's awesome.
Something about goalkeepers coming forward. Okay, can I tell one more?
Yeah.
Amazing.
I've got 6 more questions, so I don't know.
Good.
Let me just also, Ben Hawkins would like you to talk about the concepts you put into place for our residential girls camp last year, the curriculum you developed, and the intersection of soccer and transition to moments in life.
Oh, Ben, great question.
Maybe that, and then we'll go to Chris, and then we can.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's kicking us off. We don't have to leave.
Listening, Ben. Great to have you listening in. Love that.
Sorry, continue.
Okay, I won't tell my other story. I already told 2 stories. okay, I'm answering that question from Ben. This is like a big pivot. I was like, ooh, playing, scoring goals, residential camp. So yeah, shout out to my experience with coaches across continents, where I got to go coach coaches in activities and curriculum in particular, but even just like a bigger zoom out of like a mindset as a coach of like, when I show up, I'm not going to focus on teaching them skills. I'm going to focus on asking them questions about, like, instead of like, you could do the same drill about where they're passing, but instead of asking them and pausing it to point out like, oh, you used the instep of your foot correctly, or wow, I loved the way you whatever, right? Like, you stop it and you pause it and you ask questions about what it felt like to work as a team. And then you even ask right there at practice on the field, like, what are some examples in your life of when you've had to work in a team? Or is there something going on in your community right now where you have to come together? And like thinking like, oh, I can broach those subjects on the field as a coach in a brief moment and make it relevant to what they're doing, and pointing out to them, or asking them to point out, rather, good to ask them, not to tell them, like, what about this, like, what do you need in this passing drill to be successful? And when they're like, yeah, communication, it's like, yeah, well, how do we communicate? Like, talking about that and addressing that. And so that was something that I helped put together for Ben and the team that coached at the summer camp for the girls out at Deep Creek. And so yeah, we had a few different themes, but every day was able to use that Coaches Across Continents method and idea to then apply to any drill, really hitting on different themes. So yeah, we had lots of cool stuff, and the girls are, saying things to each other like, I think you're really, I think you're a great player, and I think I'm strong, and then having to like work together, and it's all on the field. And it's just cool stuff.
That's awesome. That's a good example and explanation. And there will be more of that at camps this summer. All of our fingers crossed.
Right. Hopefully.
Please get back out to ice. So just, kind of a general question, but from when you were growing up playing, or really just throughout your playing career, and sort of seeing the women's game over time, even prior to you playing too, but what have you seen grow, specifically in the women's game over the years? Are you in really just looking ahead to the future? Like, are you excited about the prospects of the game continuing to progress? I'd love to hear sort of your perspective as somebody who has been involved in the game in so many different ways. If you could talk a little bit about that, and maybe share just really your feelings of how you've seen it progress, and really too, like, how we can all contribute to that, especially, sorry for a little side note, but like, for male coaches coaching in the women's game too, I don't know if there's any mention you could make of that, but like, I think just sort of advice or guidance, or even your perspective on how we can all continue to help the women's game grow. We'd love to hear a little bit about that.
I don't know about how I've seen it progress. I think, as like someone who's not necessarily a student of the game or the biggest fan, like I don't know if I feel confident even trying to speak on that. I think obviously like the sheer numbers of young girls playing is awesome. And it's my understanding though that it's still like there's a big drop off right around puberty and middle school, where a lot of girls stop playing and boys keep playing. I don't know why. There's a lot of theories out there. I do think some of it has to do with, like the culture around the sport, maybe. And some of these particular, I think, is like Katie interviewing a lot of the high school age girls, like, why do you love to play? Like, why do you do this? And I know most of their answers, and what my answer always was playing in a team.
Yeah.
Being with teammates, friends, that type of bond, and like the feeling of working for your teammates and winning with your teammates. Like there's such a collective thing going on there. And I do wonder about like the culture of like individual, I'm the best, or I don't know, like, you know, you want to be the best you can be. Like, I don't know how much that resonates for a lot of girls. And I think something in particular that I try to do as a coach, and I think in general, the best coaches, men's or women's, a male coach or a female coach, whatever, who boys, girls, whoever they're coaching, but like creates really good team chemistry and like intentionally puts emphasis on that and value. I think that makes a huge difference. I think that type of thing would keep more girls in it. Yeah.
And just to follow, like, I'm someone who has coached on the girls' side too as a male, right? And I always enjoyed my experiences. Like it was such a fulfilling experience for me. And I know male coaches who, when they're coaching females, think that they need to change the way that they coach. Do you think that is true, first of all? And like, what are the differences in your mind, if you've coached boys before too, the differences between coaching boys and girls players?
Yeah, I'm very unsure. I don't know. And I mean, my gut instinct is to say like a coach should coach. Yeah, it's hard, right? Like coach is going to be who they are, and you're going to be who you are as a coach. I think coaches always need to be great, the same way a teacher needs to be great. Any leader, like trying to work with other people, has to be able to be malleable to the individual player. So I guess my kind of generic, but my truthful answer would be like, yeah, it doesn't have to do about boys or girls, but like any great coach is going to be themselves and manipulate what they do depending on what their players need. And so if you've got a group of 16, 20 max, hopefully not more than that, you know, how do you, that's the biggest challenge always. And so just knowing your players, because you might have some girls who fall into stereotypes of boys being hyper competitive or right, like hyper individualistic. And then you might get some boys who, right, like really care about they're playing with their teammates and don't really give a shit about winning or whatever. Sorry, oh my God. Don't really care about winning. And I made it this whole time. An hour and I haven't finished.
That was a good answer. I mean, that's what I was gonna say. Chris, you're the one that's coached both boys and girls, I feel like high school aged, maybe more so than either of us, but I totally agree. It's about the players.
I mean, manipulate to what the players need. I think that's such great advice, even though, you know, maybe you didn't even know you were giving that great advice. I wrote it down. I think that is incredible. I mean, I think it's really important that as coaches, you know, to sort of be able to really pay attention enough to your players and what you need to do to sort of to give your players what they need. I mean, that takes a lot of attention, a lot of focus, a lot of relationship building. And I think that's important. And hopefully through your answer, I didn't mean to put you on the spot or anything like that, but I think it is really important for coaches to hear that, especially, you know, for coaches who haven't been involved in the women's game before. Because sometimes it can be intimidating for coaches. It's out of their comfort zone, some of them, and I think it's important to know that. So,
sure. And I think like any type of it's like, to me, I think that gender is a construct like that society made up, right? Like, yeah, we all have different body parts and hormones. Yeah, that science is real, and also like a lot of it is made up. And so I think for someone, like for a male coach to step into a situation with female players and be like, oh my God, I've never coached women or girls, like what am I going to do? This is going to be so different. Like, just starting from that point is already really problematic because you're making a lot of assumptions about women and girls being different than boys and men. And so I think, again, if you try to like, there's two things here. You have to honor that they are girls and women and they've been socialized as such. So yeah, you might have to
desocialize.
Yeah, I mean, you can try. That's like some next level stuff though. But like, you have to honor that, yeah, like girls might make a mistake and really have a hard time bouncing back because now in their mind, they're like, I'm the worst. I haven't, my confidence is low because I made a mistake and I can't make mistakes. I'm supposed to be perfect. That kind of stuff that I think we hear like boys don't necessarily get socialized to think like that. So you have to be aware of that. And then on the flip side of it, they're just humans. So like, yeah, like just look like, be like, what does this individual human need regardless of their anatomy, right? Like that, yeah.
And now we transition into hour 2 where we discuss
It's a free coaching ad here.
It's my opinion.
I love it.
Not backed by any research.
That is not true.
No formal official research, that's for sure.
Okay. Wow. I don't even know how we wrap this. I don't know. Anything you want to leave the audience with?
But I think thinking about who is the audience, right? Like the coaches versus the players, and I appreciated that. Like, yeah, Katie, I appreciate like so much of your questions, like letting me tell stories about myself, and Chris, so much of yours is like, and like, what would our listeners potentially be interested in? Like, what would benefit them to hear about? And having both of that. So I mean, I'll just say thank you for like making space for both of those things because that's cool.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I will also tell everyone who listens to this ever. So after, I think we were like a week or two into the shutdown or this isolation period, and we had been sending out, curriculum. There was even a periodization, like a 4-week thing, and you sent me something that I think you had shared with your players that was really like, I think speaks to a lot of you and how you come at things. Which it was like a workout that, as an example, was like put 5 of your favorite songs on Spotify and like kick the ball and juggle and dribble in your backyard till it's over. So like take away sort of the periodization, take away the 30-second phases, and just like really enjoy this time with the ball. And I do think that's an aspect of this time that people and kids, are getting hopefully a lot of activity and getting a lot of resources sent to them. But I'm going to post some of your suggestions for that in the description on this video in the show notes, because I think it's a really fun sort of like exemplification of really loving the game and like spending time with the ball in a positive way.
Yeah, and in a way that is still intentional to get better, I think.
Yeah.
Because I've been distinguishing for my kids a lot. Like, there's going out and like just kind of playing haphazardly.
Mm-hmm.
You should do, because that's awesome. And you should like go out with some intention to get better at something. And I very hope that list is like you can. It's like kind of the marrying of those two things, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Did you play with Alex Morgan? I know we're towards the end of the show, so people who are tuning in could get maybe some inside scoop or just a little nugget. I mean, if
I just want to know,
if you follow her on Instagram, along with
you follow everyone on the national team on Instagram.
You'll find C. Topher Arnold is the first like on just about everything on Instagram. But anyway, yeah, I mean, quickly.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? I mean, were you guys teammates at Cal? And gosh, I guess we do have to make it more relatable to maybe our players, like in terms of her work ethic, or because you're seeing one of the best players in the world. What did you notice about her like work ethic behind the scenes that sort of helped her to get to the level that she's at?
Or other national team players that you played with?
Yeah. Once I played with Alex twice. So my freshman year of college, she was a senior. And then fast forward 4 years, and we're both at Portland my first season before she got traded to Orlando. Actually, she chose to go to Orlando, which was cool.
Breaking news! Breaking news!
People know that. Her husband was there.
I thought we had a scoop.
Years ago. I mean, I mentioned, like, I can picture so vividly Tobin, Heath, and Allie Long, both of whom are on the national team. Allie Long, less well known. She kind of just broke in recently. After every session. And I think, all of the more experienced players who then are, Christine Sinclair was there. That's the type of player that's staying after extra by herself, like kind of focused, like by herself doing her own thing, just like as many balls as she can get with maybe one person helping, and she's just trying to finish like slot lower corner over and over, right? Like that kind of repetition. I think about all of them too, like being, I mentioned earlier that I'm not this, like a student of the game. Tobin stands out for me, especially Michelle Betos, who I've talked about a couple times. Just watching. They watch, and they like to watch, and they want to watch, and they want to study, and they want to break it down. They like watching themselves, right? Like they watch a lot of their own film. They spend hours like watching it with coaches, with teammates, trying to deconstruct every little move and tactic and understanding. I think that like sets them apart and makes them really special. And I think for myself and the group that like we came in, it feels like freshmen, right? It was like we were kind of the new recruits, our first season, the rookies, right, in the league. It was really clear, like, oh, when they stay after practice and work, there's like intention. There's not just like, oh yeah, I'll like shoot around for 10 minutes. Like, no, like I'm trying to get better at a certain thing.
Yeah.
And they're gonna go home, they're gonna rest their body, they're gonna eat right, and then they're gonna not watch Netflix all day. They'll watch some, of course, but they're gonna spend at least an hour or two watching football.
Yeah.
Thinking about football. And journaling about football and meditating about football. I mean, it was like they love it, and you could see like all the rookies coming out of college were like, oh, like, that's not, and then a lot you don't make it. Like, oh, that's not my vibe. And I imagine almost all of the national team players have to be that way. Thinking about Adriana Franch being like that, Nadine Unger. Again, not to say they don't have balance and other stuff they're interested in, but they put a lot of time. Time and intention.
All right. Speaking of time,
you want me to tell Alex Morgan stories? That's what you want. I have one Chris, I have one for you that I'll tell you off the air. I'll let everyone else wonder about that.
Wow. What a tease for everyone. Now you just got to meet Emily in person and, come get to know her.
You can get her to follow me on Insta.
My God. All right. We're off the rails.
Yeah.
Okay.
Off the rails.
Thank you all for tuning in. Tomorrow is Spring to Action.
Okay.
More information coming, and we'll see you all soon.
Give your money away.
Yes, that. Chris, are you going to take us out?
Yeah, let's do it. Let me pump up the volume. Uh-oh. Is that the right song? No.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's the other
No.
one. That's okay. As long as it's edited.
Katie, don't worry about it. We'll...
Bye, everyone. See you soon.